When it comes to pressure testing, or however we choose to define that piece, at our
Sure.
school, I have students that are in every age group from 27 on to 75. How would you go about pressure testing or creating good skills at the very least for such
Yeah.
a diverse kind of age group and still try to hold a standard?
Well, that standard needs to be fluid,
Hmm.
because when I do my seminars, I ask at the very beginning a few questions. One is there a knife defense technique that works for everyone? The answer is no. If I believe in an outside two-on-one control, a little old lady is not going to be able to pull that off against,
Yes, sir.
a big, right? So there's no knife defense technique that works for everybody. And then I ask, is there a knife defense technique without any vulnerabilities, without any
Hmm.
hold? So the answer is no. So then we come to the conclusion that different things work for different people and at different times under different conditions. So the nature of pressure testing should also be fluid and realistic. And not every pressure test needs to be a full-blown rehearsal going on 100%. There's a term I like to use called quality controlling, for example,
Okay.
right? So we do a quality control rather than a pressure test. And we can quality control your grip. We can quality control your ability to stop an angle one attack with a bisecting line. We can quality control your ability to parry a jab, right? And so when you quality control something, there isn't a pass fail standard, right? Because when you quality control someone's inside parry for a 7-year-old, that's going to be held at a different standard than somebody who's been training for a long time and is at their physical prime, right? So I don't there is there should be a pass fail to like a scenario training, for example. But as
Hmm.
far as pressure testing goes, the idea is as an instructor, we ought to be able to efficiently give students opportunities where they make mistakes and then they can go again and try to remedy or correct or modify.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for that. I sincerely appreciate that. I struggle with that at my school because I have so many different types of people, and I want to keep
Mhm.
the standard high, but at the same time, I do believe it should be fluid too. Uh,
For sure.
someone like myself, when I first came into martial arts, I was a fat little kid that watched a lot of TV, and so nothing, you know, uh, anything physical didn't make a lot of sense to me. And I'll be damned if my first instructor didn't give me a pair of sticks. And next thing I know, body mechanics happened. Maybe not the best body mechanics, but at the same time, more than there was at the same, beforehand. So,
Yeah. And I mean, as instructors, a lot of instructors pride themselves in connecting on an individual level with a particular student. So it's just a reflection of that. People learn differently and at different rates. And so our pressure testing or our quality controlling ought to reflect that. So if you're not going to have one way to teach everybody, then there shouldn't be one standard, a pass fail that fits everybody. Because again, there are no techniques without any vulnerabilities. There's no perfect technique. Everything has a counter. And then also, there isn't a technique that works for everybody. We know this.
yeah,
So testing should sort of reflect that.
I totally agree. Thank you. And there are a lot of people I don't think necessarily like that piece, martial arts a lot of times. I'm in Wisconsin and stuff, and sometimes folks still have an idea of a Karate Kid kind of martial fantasy at times, you know, and they're almost on their own hero's journey, if you will, in the training. Uh,
Yeah, that's one of my biggest problems and I'll be blunt, a lot of students are just dumb and ignorant. And good for them for wanting to take martial arts to be able to solve some perceived problems they have in their life. But if students were more educated coming in, it'd make my life a whole lot easier because then I wouldn't have to compete with the person who's spewing out certainties, lies, and bullshit online. And I can say, look, I fail in my own classes. I mess up my own drills that I created based on a drill that I've been doing forever. I
Hmm.
still mess that up. And so when, but I mean, people have, daddy issues and they want to look for certainties and they want to believe that the thing that they're investing in is definitely going to help with the problem that they think they're going to have. And they're not willing to go, yeah, even the most well-trained knife guy is subject to the specific elements that may be present when his day comes, right?
Hmm.
So, yeah, I mean,